You've heard plenty of people say, oh, she's so good at that for a girl, right? Yeah, well, maybe if those people paid attention to women like Luella Bates, they'd wish they were just girls, too. Luella Bates was born in 1897 in Wisconsin. I wasn't able to find a whole lot of information about her early life, so let's pick up her story where most sources do. During World War I, and as we know, most able bodied dudes signed up and got sent overseas. Yeah, but how is the country going to run without men? I know, right? Who was going to step in? Gee, I wonder. Well, you guessed it. Women answered the call, as we always do. And for many of them, it was the very first time they'd ever worked outside of the home, in fields that no man thought they could ever handle. Maybe y'all should stop underestimating us. Just a thought. Luella Bates was one of those women who stepped up. In 1918, she took a position with a Wisconsin-based company called the Four-Wheel Drive Auto Company. She was the first of several women who were hired as test and demonstration drivers of FWD's Model B truck, their 3-ton trucks. They were cab-over-engine with full-time four-wheel drive. That meant, among other things, equal traction, distributed power, elimination of unequal vibration, proportional loads, since 45% of the weight was carried on the front axle and 55% on the rear. That meant the wheelbase was shortened, making it easier to handle in traffic. That comes in handy with a marketing campaign for them. So anyway, at that time, the U.S. Army bought a bunch of them for the war, like more than 30,000 of them. And Luella had tested more than 200 of them at an average of 75 miles each. Okay, if you don't want to math, I'll go ahead and do it for you. That means she logged about 15,000 miles. Oh, and I can't forget the Model B's top speed, 15 miles or 24 kilometers per hour. Shit really blew her hair back, didn't it? Anyway, after the war, the economy was pretty much shit. And FWD wanted to keep making a profit. They'd already fired all the other women. They couldn't fire dudes, are you kidding me? So they needed an exceptional marketing campaign. So they decided to prove their trucks were so well built and easy to maneuver, even a girl could handle them. So I said that they had already fired all the other women, but they did keep Luella on. So her career continued and her reputation started to grow. But how, Mary? Well, in January of 1920, FWD had her drive a Model B to New York City, where she attended the New York Auto Show. While she was there, she met the New York Secretary of State, Francis Hugo. He seems to have been another man who liked to capitalize on a good angle, because she helped represent his Safety First initiative. Teach people the rules of the road so they can actually drive without completely fucking it up for everybody else. Pretty sure we could use some of that now, but I digress. So while she was there, she went ahead and became the first woman to hold a New York driver's license. She made such a huge impression on reporters and the public in general that FWD saw huge dollar signs hanging right over her head. So from that point to 1922, FWD sent her on several U.S. tours. And yeah, she was a hit. FWD, quite pleased. Her first tour began right then in 1920. She hit about 25 towns, from Kansas City, Missouri to Bellefontaine, Ohio. On one of her tours through Oklahoma, she blatantly defied the police. See, she was hauling meat for a packing plant, and the road was flooded. But she had meat. Limited time frame, people. The cops didn't think a man should attempt to cross it. How could a little girl possibly do it? Well, like any of us, she just did it. And her delivery got there on time. FWD sold 10 trucks because of it. She ultimately drove her Model B throughout most of the eastern and southern parts of the United States. At each stop, she demonstrated its various capabilities, including dump trucking. But guess what, kids? She wasn't just an expert driver. She was an expert mechanic, too. And of course, that was a huge deal in newspaper reports. A girl as a mechanic? Say what? Yeah, so one reporter, a man, asked her if she brought along a man in case shit broke down. I'm just going to go ahead and quote her directly here. Why no, of course I don't take a man along to do any of the repair work. I do it myself. Why, just the other day in New Orleans, I had some trouble with my carburetor, and I had to take the whole thing apart right there in the street. But I love to do it. It just brings me joy. So when they further asked if any girl could do the same thing she was doing, including being a mechanic, I really wish she would have used my favorite phrase, fucking duh. And then she should have said, by the way, I'm a woman. But instead, she used kinder words. Any woman can, if she's interested in mechanics. Again, fucking duh. She went on to say, certainly women make as good mechanics as men. Didn't the war prove that women could step into virtually every industry and successfully replace men? Hey, maybe that's why they're afraid of us. Maybe it'll be us who take their jobs. She eventually became an inspector for the Model Bs, and she traveled to do just that. She documented and recommended repairs and maintenance. Can you imagine a woman inspecting the trucks that dudes drove? Oh, the horror! Anyway, and I can't forget the time that she went up in a plane over Erie, Pennsylvania, and, quote, saturated the area with flyers with information about FWD and its vehicles. At that same time, Popular Science magazine called her Exhibit A for feminine efficiency. You ever wonder why you never hear those phrases with masculine in front of them? Hmm, I wonder. And of course, even with all that talent and skill and badassery, men and articles minimized her as less than an adult. She was called our girl driver, a mere slip of a girl, a pretty chauffeur, and more bullshit. Regardless of the language, though, she was proving that trucks weren't just for men anymore. In early December of 1922, she moved to Milwaukee, where she eventually married Howard Coates, and they had two kids. Luella Bates passed away in 1985 at the age of 88. And it turns out her great granddaughter is actress Ashley Hinshaw. One of her acting credits is True Blood. In a blog post, Ashley wrote that Luella was known as charismatic and charming, and more skilled than any man on the job. Ooh, ouch. While Luella left a historical legacy that is undeniably influential, today women make up only 13% of the trucking industry. But that's growing every year. So again, we must ponder, is that why we're so scary?